What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL Live. Joined as always by my co host, Jonathan Holder. Jonathan, what's going on, brother?
Man, I am doing so wonderful after that bye week. I can't wait for Falcons football to come back this coming weekend.
Oh, man. Yes, there was a part of me that was like, I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, of course, this is what was going to, transpire. We're riding the high of, 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Obviously, we weren't going to go undefeated for the rest of the season. Uh, but yeah, then you come back to your home and get your like teeth kicked in the way that you did, which of course what we're talking
Well,
about
so,
is the
so,
Seahawks
so,
game.
so yeah. So I'll say this. I mean, we came out the second half, had a really good drive. I felt really good at that point. To this point up in in the season, second half has kind of been our time. Didn't
Mhm.
matter who the opponent was. The second half, maybe except for the first game, but outside of that first game of the season, every single game since then, the second half, whether we won or lost, has kind of been our half. So
Right.
when we come out and we got like a 7-minute drive, running and passing and doing all the things and what have you, I was feeling pretty good. Um, our defense just couldn't. Great. That is a really, really good offense. Um,
That okay. I I agree, but I disagree in a sense. Like obviously Geno Smith is still leading the league in passing yards. Um and they have a good run game, as we saw. Um but this felt like a trap game. Years past, it would have been the Carolina game. You know, we would have went up to Carolina and lost to a team that we should have beat, right?
yeah,
And we didn't. So like you're like okay, maybe, but there's still the fact that hey, this is a new regime, new full on new coaching staff all the way around, bunch of new pieces. There's parts that I have to remember. This isn't a well-oiled machine per se. Even though Seattle has a new coaching staff, sure, but those guys have played together for a few years. Gino has played with DK and Tyler Lockett and JSN. He's played with, you know, Kenneth Walker, and so there's still like even though we're 7 games into the season, there's still a learning curve that we're going through, with our team. Um, but like a point I was trying to make is that man, I completely lost my train of thought. I completely lost where I was headed with that. I'm making a point,
yeah.
and
It's
okay,
called getting old, sir.
oh, dude, and that and the fact that like peek behind the curtain a little bit. Me and you both been just dealing with a whole bunch of technical issues. Like
Yep.
5 minutes before the show, my internet is absolutely just like tanking left and right. I'm trying to troubleshoot that, and
Yep.
then get like okay. Anyway, all right, try to get back on track. So the deal is like you come into this game knowing pretty much what they're going to do. You know what you have been bad at all season. And you've been bad at all season stopping people from being able to run the ball. Which is actually something we thought we would be much better at with um, with the defensive line that we have, or at least the talent of the defensive line. The fact that you were going to run more, 5-man fronts, which are supposed to be harder to, run against. But you haven't been able to stop the run like at all. And
Right.
so and you couple that with not being able to get to the quarterback. Yes, you had a high, pressure rate once again,
Yeah.
like you did in
Well,
Carolina.
no, well, yeah, in Carolina, but like that has not been the norm throughout the season, and that
No,
and that's what
no.
and that's what I'll say is like, and yes, we did have higher pressure rates in Carolina, but even then, it was still probably in like 25 to 30.
Well,
range.
it was their highest one, I think, at like 34%. In this particular game, Geno Smith got pressured on 50% of his dropbacks.
And it was wasted.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, look, I'm not saying that you're going to have if you get 50% pressure rate that you should come out of there with like 5, 6, 7 sacks or anything like that. But like if you pressure a guy on half of his dropbacks, like being able to close the deal on 2 or 3, that should be the norm in that scenario. And then
being able to close, like you should have come out of that game with at least 2 sacks.
They
were starting.
Technically, we did, but technically they took one away from us because of the fumbled snap.
Right. So, with that being said, like, somebody please explain to me how new coaching staff, new players, and somehow still the same Falcons in the sense. And I'm not trying to like, poo-poo and talk crap or what have you, but how many times have we gone into a game where they're starting a rookie right tackle that has never played a snap in the NFL, and we can't make anybody pay for that?
Yeah.
Like, how many times? And it doesn't matter who's out there. It doesn't matter the player. It doesn't matter the coaching. It doesn't matter the schemes. I mean, I get it. Fred Butts, we appreciate your $5. We thank you a lot for that. He's talking about if we're going to be, it's like, if we're going to be a 3-4 defense, we need to blitz. Like Georgia, that's how you play a 3-4. It doesn't even really matter what scheme. And then, because we have been a 4-3 for years. We have been a base 4-3. I mean, in the NFL, you run nickel. Like, nickel is really your base. I know everybody likes to get caught up in, 3-4 and 4-3, but you're in nickel 70 some odd % of the time.
Yeah.
The problem is this coaching staff is unwilling, at least thus far, to have a stacked box. They keep playing these light boxes. They keep, having, the 5-man line with the 1 linebacker. So you're talking about 6 people in the box, and you're daring these teams to run on you. And by God, they're obliging.
Yeah.
Like, they're obliging, and you're giving them you're not making them pay for
it. Yeah. It's and the problem is like when we do blitz, and we blitzed quite a bit. Like,
we did in this game. We blitzed.
We did the last couple of games, really.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is every single time, maybe not every single time, but a good majority of the time that I see us blitz, we blitz, and it's like, we're always getting picked up. Mm-hmm. Or we're never able to like time it just right to where like the quarterback just doesn't even have a chance. Like when we've seen that happen to us so many, over the years, so many times. I sit and watch other NFL games and I see the same things, and like their defenses do what they're supposed to do, right? And ours doesn't. And I don't, I don't know why. I really, really don't. But
no.
I will say this. I'll say this. A lot of people are going to be like, going through Twitter. There's talk of like how many picks are we giving up plus Michael Penix for Myles Garrett. Michael Penix is probably the only like one of the guys on the team that is like untouchable. Okay, you're not trading Penix. You're not trading some of the offensive pieces. You're not trading anything like that. So take that away. But like Myles Garrett, people were like, "Hey, let's get Myles Garrett." I'm totally down with that. The problem is, and I I was listening to, this wasn't even this week's stuff post this game. It was after the last game. People were already commenting about the pass rush and all this other stuff, and they were like, well, you can bring in Myles Garrett, and Myles Garrett, like he gets a bunch of sacks, but he gets a bunch of sacks because the defense is able to hold people to like 3rd and longs. On 3rd and longs, he has a win rate of like 19% or something like that. Like, like it's a really good number. And he gets like the majority of his sacks that way. But if you get him into a third and short, third and like 2 and 3, stuff like that, his win rate is like way down. It's like 1%
I mean,
or something like
I
that.
I hate to inform anybody at this junction, and again, I hope y'all don't take this as just me like crap talking or poo pooing or whatever. But a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby isn't fixing this defense. Like
No.
they would be fun. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong. Like it would be fun to have them here. Especially Max Crosby. That
Yeah.
would be a ton of fun. But they're like that's not one player isn't fixing this defense because as we've seen or as it's been pointed out by plenty enough people, even Raheem said it, like we or the team has to play better as a team. The defense has to play better as a defense. You have guys who aren't like maintaining their their lanes or their defensive integrity. Jarvis Davis, if any of y'all follow him, formerly of 92.9, I think he does the
Yep.
Locked On Atlanta now.
Yep.
He posted a video, a couple weeks or a couple after last game, where we could have had Andy Dalton dead to rights, but you had Taquan Graham not maintaining his outside shoulder,
Yep.
like his outside gap. He's peeking inside trying to get a sack. Everybody's like trying to get their sacks and trying to affect the quarterback, but they're all doing it individually instead of trying to trying to get
They're
into
not rushing as a unit.
right.
Right.
And we've
There's
heard that
no.
before.
Yeah.
We've heard that before as far as like, you got to rush as a team. This is if nothing else, this is a schematic issue in the sense that these guys aren't performing within the scheme. They're not doing what they're supposed to do, and you can hear that in like some of Raheem's marks. So Jimmy Lake and them have to figure out, okay, what do we change then? Like Justin's over here saying, it's not personnel issue, it's scheme. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that completely and utterly agrees with you that it is scheme. Okay, so then how do we adjust? Like the coaches need to ask themselves, okay, how do we adjust the scheme to make it work in the way the personnel is running? Like, and I've heard plenty of coaches say, "Oh, look, you only got a certain amount of time, certain amount of like reps. You can't just change who you are, mid-season." But there's some things that you can start doing, differently. Like you can start deploying your players in a different way.
Yeah.
Do you take that? Do you put in more linebackers instead of that consistently running the penny front? Do you change up? And now I'll say this: we've obviously felt the loss of Troy Anderson these past few games, his sideline to sideline speed, but even getting Troy back isn't necessarily just going to fix everything immediately. So like it is a philosophical problem that they're not getting across to the team. The team hasn't fully understood, like the defensive side of the ball hasn't fully understood like the assignment. Like they don't understand. I don't know how else to say it other than they don't understand how they are supposed to work together. And unfortunately, that is a coaching issue. They're not getting it across to them. Willie Doc asked, he says, can you all give an example based on personnel what we should be doing?
Well, I mean, the personnel in a lot of respects. I mean, obviously, we're missing a couple of big guys that I wish we had been able to get back, but they sounds like they didn't want to come back for various reasons. But
Talking about like Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell.
yeah, Calais Campbell specifically, I know we offered more money. He just wanted to be in Miami. and
Well,
then was
that's where I
that's
think
where
that's
that's
where he's from. He
yeah,
knows
that's
he's at the twilight of his career. I
yeah,
think he like, and the same thing with Daniil Hunter. Like he wanted to go back home, kind of
and
deal,
that's
and that's
you
fine.
know,
I
there's
got to
nothing you can do about that.
as
But
far as like our personnel goes. Like I would love to see like Zach Harris get some more run. You
well,
know,
I'd like to see Zach Harrison get run as an edge.
that's what I'm like as an edge, not as a D tackle. I'd love to see Zach Harris get more run as an edge. Um, at this point in time, we're 7 games in. Can we see what Brandon Dorless has as a potential spark to the defensive line?
Well,
Um,
even but he is not going to be an edge. He will be three like
he's a 3 tech, but that's fine if he's rushing, from a 3 tech, which is what he did at Oregon, and
yeah.
that's where he got a lot of his pressures from. Um, as it stands right now, like Rook has looked pretty good since they've been able, since they put him in.
Yeah, they stole
Um,
his first sack. God bless him.
yeah. um, let's, yeah, I think, and that's like, y'all saw the thumbnail. The thumbnail is like bent and broken because, this bend but don't break is not keeping people out of the end zone. I mean, to a point where you gave up 20 points to Andy Dalton last week, who they looked like they were putrid, this week. Like you've given up points to
Well,
everybody so far.
yeah, and what I'll say is like Andy Dalton came in that first week as the starter, lit it up, but then obviously since then, people have had more time to like scheme him up and stuff like that. So we've had people have had more time to look at it. The Commanders' defense is just really really good.
Now, yeah, I
Uh,
mean, obviously
I didn't see what happened to really just kind of a sidebar. I
yeah,
didn't see what happened to Jaden Daniels. What happened to him?
he got landed on. Like I think he was scrambling. I don't know if he was. I don't know if he was scrambling. I know he got landed on like his shoulder wise, but when they came down on his ribs, which is yeah. So is which is what has him looking week to week, and then
Yeah.
obviously Mariota came in and looked like prime awesome Mariota. Like he looked amazing, that was funny to see. Um,
Again, now he comes in as a there's a whole different thing when it talks about coming in as a backup because everybody is game planning for Jaden Daniels. When he goes out of the game, Mariota, while he can do some similar things, he is a different quarterback. He's a different guy, and we see that. I don't know how many times we see that in the NFL. That when that backup quarterback comes
when
in,
that initial switch happened.
especially mid game.
Oh
Like
yeah,
when you talk about all they've done the entire week is focus on Jaden Daniels and
and
what
what
his
he can
tendencies
do.
are and what he can do
Yep.
and all this other stuff. And now you have to switch up in game to a guy that like the last footage you had from him was like from last year, so you don't know what the hell he's been doing in practice. So when you see that kind of change mid game like that, and again you're going against the Panthers, that defense is bad.
Yeah.
So and they got really good players, around Jaden Daniels, well, and now Mariota. So if he has to start this week, we'll see if that can continue.
That's
But
the thing. Is like we'll see. It was like Chris is correct. How about the Falcons legend Marcus Mariota? Dude, if he'd have played like that, he'd still be here as a QB, and so would Arthur Smith. So
yep.
y'all take that for what you want. All right. We're 20 minutes in, and we just went on I don't forgot to hit the intro. I
Yep.
don't like hey, it's all jacked up today. So Willie's gonna kick us off way back, and we're gonna get into our
Thank you,
ballers
Willie.
and followers. We appreciate that, Willie, with the $5. He says, "Baller Bijan, fallers, the team composure, very unfocused. Honorable mention, O line, side eye glance, Judon. Hopefully, the loss will refocus and tune up. There is a bit of like where they starting to believe their own Kool-Aid, kind of deal. You ripped
Maybe.
off you ripped off 3 wins, and in those 3 wins, you looked good, right? And then you're facing a team that was coming off of 3 straight losses. And here's the deal. like decent teams, and Seattle's a decent team. They're not a Cleveland Browns. They're not a
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals. They're not a uh, prime screw up Jaguars, right? The Seattle Seahawks are a decent team. They have been a decent team for a while. Decent teams don't lose 4 and 5 games in a row. And just like it's hard to do that, it's also hard to win 4 and 5 games in a row, which is why doing what the Chiefs are doing currently, everybody wants to talk about Mahomes, but it's their defense that is doing it, because right now I think Mahomes has almost as many picks as he does touchdowns, or more picks than he does touchdowns.
Yep.
So it's not like Mahomes is playing at Mahomes level, right?
And I'll say this: Mahomes is likely going to get absolutely killed the next time he gets close to a sideline.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get somebody's gonna blast him,
Yeah, they'll take the
they'll take
15
the
yarder
15
if they're late.
right. They'll take that 15 and send that message. You're not wrong about that. But anyway, what I'm saying is so this was like a perfect storm. One team had to stop a slide,
Yep.
and as Bradley is saying here, we were sniffing our own farts, possibly, like definitely. So,
Well, one of the things we heard from like people that had talked to the team and things like that was, and this is a good thing to have. This is not a bad thing to necessarily have, and that's when you get into those late games or you get into the second half of games and maybe you're down by 3 points, 7 points, or whatever, but you come back and you win. And if you do that multiple times, then you start getting the feeling of like, the confidence that we can do this.
right.
And that's a good thing to have. But it
Oh,
can
for
also,
sure.
if you're not careful with that, it's almost like you believe that no matter what, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
And if it doesn't, and you just kind of like expect it to happen, you don't necessarily. And I'm not saying they did or didn't do this or whatever, but in my brain, I'm thinking they've got to be thinking like, okay, we've been down before, we've been in this position, and we've come out the other side the winner.
right.
So it's going to happen again. Not we can do it again. It's going to happen again. And
Mhm.
like maybe not quite having the edge that they needed to. I don't know. I don't know. I
Who
don't
knows?
know.
Again, we're 7 games in. We're still 4-3. We get a chance to sweep the Bucks next week.
Yep.
So everything is still in front of us. This is definitely by no means
And they're going to be down. They're going to be
right.
down
Well,
two
we're going to get
big
into that,
weapons.
but let's do this ballers and fallers real quick.
Yep.
So obviously, as we tend to do, we start with the baller. And for me, I went with Bijan. Like,
Yeah.
come on, there's my arrows. Thank you. So, like, it sucks that one of his best performances to date as a Falcon got wasted in a loss, but he had on 21 carries, 103 yards. Like, he pretty much was like, he was the offense. Uh and then 3 yards or 3 catches for 40 yards. So you're talking about averaging them or being accounted for 143 yards and a touchdown. He's definitely becoming more of a mainstay of the offense, which is good to see. Like, don't think that's a bad thing. You spent high draft capital on him. You need him to be that have that Saquon Barkley effect on your offense, and you saw that. So I was glad that he had a good game. Now, um, outside of the turnovers, I mean, Kirk still had a pretty good game. Uh, the 3 turnovers obviously killed that. Like um, let's see if I can get team stats. That's what I was wanting. Yeah, you were -2 or -3 in the turnover margin, which is what I said. I don't know if any of y'all had a chance to catch the Hawks Nest podcast I went on. That's what and I think I even mentioned it last week. The only thing that our defense could hang its hat on was takeaways, whether it was
Well,
interceptions or
takeaways and not giving up explosive plays, and that
right.
was a big problem as well on Sunday.
Exactly. And so when you get into you get into losing the turnover battle, because we actually won the time of possession battle, but the
Yeah.
turnover battle and the penalties are what really killed you.
Yep. We
9
had
penalties.
two false starts on our very first drive in our own house,
Right.
back to back.
Exactly.
We had
So
we had three on the entire drive, but there were
two of
two
them, yeah.
like it was ridiculous.
Exactly. All right. So, but you feel about the same as far as ballers concerned?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're moving on and to the faller. Now, you had a different faller than what I went with. Because your faller was you said Zach Robinson as the faller. Now I need you to explain that a little bit before I reveal who I put in.
Wait,
Nope. Or is that an old tweet or an old?
that's an old one, but
That's
like
old.
yeah,
Never mind.
I'll say my faller for this game is just coaching in general.
I got you.
Like you didn't like this team did not seem up for this game.
Right. The
Okay.
team didn't team up. I know some people who were at the stadium and they even said like the stadium wasn't really rocking.
Well, because there was nothing like, the now granted, you can say whatever you want to say, and you can talk about, Pittsburgh and their fans and whatever, and their fans and whatever. The reality of the situation is, okay, this is what, take it or leave it. The reality is Atlanta fans are going to cheer when they got something good to cheer for. When you're not producing something for them to cheer for, I'm not saying they're never going to do it, because if you do well throughout the game and then maybe fall off a little bit towards the end, but you're still close, you still need the fans behind you, they'll get behind you then. Okay, but if we're talking from the very get go, it just kind of seemed like blah coming from
Right.
the team, right? There's nothing to build that foundation for, so that you have that for later, and that's just
Yeah.
the way Atlanta fans are going to be.
Oh yeah. No, I mean,
You
as
know,
far as Atlanta fans, like I hate to put it like this, but you've built a traditional losing here in Atlanta with the Falcons. And so that's what fans expect. Like, Falcon's gonna Falcon, that
yep,
statement ain't that for a reason.
yeah.
Um,
You got. They're going to have to, if they want to change it so that the energy from the fans, like they get the energy from the fans without necessarily having to do something at the very beginning of a game, or at least look good early on in the game. You're going to have to show over time that you're able to bring your own juice, and you can start strong, you finish strong, and no matter what, and then over time that mentality will change. But yeah, right now it's just too ingrained that, like
right.
you said, Falcon's going to Falcon.
So Faller, bam, I put Mr. Jimmy Lake
Yep.
because through 7 games now, like we're not seeing improvements in areas that we need to be seeing improvements.
Yep.
Like there are, players out there who have more sacks than the entire Falcons team.
Yep.
Like you can't say much about like Fontenot. Fontenot went and got you Matt Judon. Like now it's up to you to get these guys in the most advantageous position to succeed and to get to the quarterback. And whether it's the, as Fred's saying, he's not aggressive enough. Okay. So if it's, whether it's the lack of aggression, whether it's the ethos of, okay, we are going to, boa constrictor them by, you know, continuously clamping down, not giving up the big plays. Well, you're not challenging them underneath either. You're not getting, you know, teams into third and longs. You're not getting off the field in third downs in general. And that's problematic. Um, what is the deal here? So you said, coaching. So is there anything like I kind of use Jimmy Lake as just to be able to talk about the defense, which we have already done thus far. So
Mhm.
what else would you like to add as far as coaching is concerned?
I mean, it just felt like there were you could look at the defense, and I absolutely have no problem with Jimmy Lake. being the fall guy essentially for this game.
Right.
Your defense didn't stop anything. Yes, we did get more pressure, but we're not finishing. We're not tackling properly. Um, you know, but then you look on the offensive side, and the biggest problem on the offensive side is offensive penalties.
Yep.
Like whether it's false starts, whether it's holding, whether it's just miscues in general, and then you get to the end of the game, and now you're trying to press,
And that
and it is what it is,
that's the biggest thing is like you didn't like Kirk Cousins was pressing in that game, trying to, especially as the further down you got, and
Yeah,
he's over here pressing, and now you're having turnovers in your own territory. Is you're giving the Seahawks short fields to work with, to a point where Geno Smith only had to throw for 200 yards.
yeah,
Kenneth Walker only ran. You can look at the stat box. And go, I mean, Walker only ran for 69 yards. You held their whole running game, even with Geno, in less than 100. Let's see, hold on. Let me get this number right. They only rushed for 103 yards. You're like, oh, that's a good day rush. Okay, yes, but you didn't have to go that far.
yeah,
They didn't have to go that far to get the, to get touchdowns.
yeah.
Um,
Now, what I will say is like up to this game, okay. While the defense has given up some points, while they have not, gotten the quarterback on the ground and done those things, there have been times where we absolutely needed something from the defense. We needed a stop. We needed a turnover. We needed whatever. And the defense has rose to the occasion, late in games when they were needed. So there is something there.
oh
Okay,
yeah.
there is something there. I'm not necessarily saying that I think we're 7 games into the first
And that's
year
why,
of this regime, so
right.
we'll see how things go. But
And that's why, like, I will caution anybody to, or not caution, but that's why I'll say I actually don't think they're going to make any kind of moves. I could be completely wrong, but their thing that they have been harping on and preaching from Raheem's first released team meeting video is outrun the South.
mhm,
And right now, that goal is still easily in front of you.
yep,
Like your biggest obstacle, honestly, right now is Tampa Bay. And I hate to say it like this, but Tampa Bay just lost their 1A and 1B receiver.
yep,
You know what they're going to do.
mhm,
You know what they're going to do or attempt to do. The only thing they really got going down there is Kate Otten and that running back room, Rasheed White and Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker. So there should be no surprise whatsoever about what you're going to face on Sunday.
like this. In my mind, this needs to be much more of a if you're gonna run zone, it needs to be like cover 3. Center. Get base back there in the center field. But we need to have guys that are playing much more aggressively. Up on the ball. We need to make it. We need to make it so that they have to work really hard to get open and not give up. And I understand that the want from this defense, so far has been we don't want to give up anything over our heads, and so we're constantly playing back and we're constantly giving up plays underneath and rallying up to tackle. And we've done it for the most part. We've done a pretty good job of that. And then whether it's we let them go all the way down to the red zone and then we stop them and then we give up 3 points. Okay, fine. We give it. If we could do that all the time, I'd say yeah. But there are times where you need to step up and you need to make stop people. And
Right.
we need to give we need to do more. We need to be more aggressive on defense. Okay, if we give up the odd big play here and there, it is what it is, right? You play aggressive. You live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing. And look, we may come back here next Tuesday and just be like, "Whew, that sucked," because we just keep getting beat. But if we're getting beat over the top by, wide receiver 3, 4, and whoever, and K. Dotton and their running backs out of the backfield, if we're getting beat for big plays by those guys, there's something else really seriously going on.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So
100%.
I think for one, I think that AJ Terrell is much better in press man coverage. I think he can play zone, and he plays zone just fine. On that TD we gave up at halftime, that wasn't on him. Like, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Landman wasn't where he was supposed to be. Like,
Right.
they're playing cover 2. He was supposed to be the middle third guy, and they just, he just wasn't there. And there were a couple other times where Landman was just out of place. Like, he was not where he was supposed to be. So they need to get their act together and get back to, the absolute best advice if I'm a defensive coach, and the thing that I want to hammer into every single person, okay, is 99% of the time when you're playing defense is strictly this: do your job.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you are supposed to be the middle linebacker in a cover 2 defense. You're supposed to be in that deep third covering that seam route. Make sure you're there. If they beat you someplace else, as long as you did your job, then that's not on you. Okay. If you're rushing the passer, okay, and the scheme of this rush means that you have to stay on this guy's outside shoulder until a certain amount of time or whatever. Obviously at some point you got to make some changes there, but if you're supposed to do that to maintain your rush lane, to keep contained, if that's the case, then do it. Okay, if somebody else gets the sack, so what?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay? Let somebody else say the sacks will come to you if you keep doing your job. Too many times we're seeing guys trying to move over into other people's areas of responsibility, and then we just get jacked up.
Right. I don't think it's like a glory chasing type situation. I just literally think that what it comes down to is, and I've listened to enough like coaches talk, whether it be podcasts and stuff at different levels. And really what I keep coming away from is like, it just sounds like they're not explaining the plan well, like coach wise, that they're not getting across the job well, because my whole deal is, when you're explaining what you're supposed to be, like what they're supposed to be doing, and like how you're supposed to go about what the like overall plan is, not just the, hey man, this is what I need you to do, but the why of why I need you to do it. Like sometimes that's what galvanizes a plan better. The why. And I just think that maybe that's what's getting lost. But yeah, again, I don't think, like, Albert says, if Raheem knows that he needs a veteran QB to win, then go get a veteran pass rush to help your defense. Well, they did that with Matt Judon. So I just don't think that they're going to make, another move per se.
No, like
I could be completely wrong. It's just, that's just not the feeling I get.
I mean, it all depends. Like, again, if they're feeling, regardless of whether what I think, what JR thinks, what anybody in chat thinks, if the coaches are watching film, and they're being honest with themselves, and they believe that they are really close, which, I mean, again, you absolutely are close if we're looking at the pass rush from this past weekend. Okay, this past weekend, if you're pass rushing this team and you're getting pressures on 50% of those pass rush attempts from various people along the line, then you're close to what you're wanting to be. You're just not able to finish it out, and that's a problem. I'm not saying that's a good thing, whatever. That is a problem. You've got to make sure you're closing that out. When you get there, you cannot let him escape.
Right.
You cannot let him buy more time and then have your guys out there who have done a good job of covering for 3 or 4 seconds now get an extra second or two that now that they can't hold up that long. And no defense is on a play-by-play basis is going to hold up longer than like 4 to 5 seconds tops.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, like, one thing I want y'all to know and realize is the Bucs put up 21 points in the fourth quarter after they lost Mike Evans.
Yeah,
and I'm not.
They still had Godwin, and then
I was about to say I can't remember like exactly when Godwin went down. But so I know they're going to be down Godwin, but they were still eating the Ravens' defense alive as far as like they almost put up 500 yards on the Ravens' defense, which most would probably argue is a lot more consistent than our defense. I'm not saying better, but I'm definitely saying more consistent. So that's my big.
Oh yeah.
But I'll agree with I agree with Fred in a sense. Like everybody's gonna have a bad game, okay?
Yeah.
And we had a bad game to start the season. Then we went on a run of 6 games, even though we lost to the Chiefs. 6 games where we played really well, like especially offensively, and the defense even though it may not have like been a shutdown defense, like you said earlier, it made plays when it had to. It had opportunistic and turnovers when it needed it. So this was just like a perfect storm in a sense of Kirk Cousins having, if he's good for a 500-yard game every now and again, he's also good for multiple turnovers and some boneheaded plays, which you kind of got some of that this week. So again, I'm not trying to panic. I hope nobody's taking our comments as oh God, these guys think the world's ending. I don't think the world's ending, and I definitely think that we're going. I don't think 7 wins is where we're going to land.
No.
And I've even like 7 games in, I have a pretty good feeling that we have a real good shot at winning the NFC South. Now, if we do, how far we go into the playoffs is a whole nother ball game. But Jay Black with the $5, we appreciate it. It says P for P, did we lose our rushing linebacker / DN this past game? Did we lose one? You talking about James Smith-Williams? Like he got dinged up and came out of the game, but Raheem said everybody was good. Like, so getting another rushing DN would be a good idea if so, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm in favor of going out and getting somebody. Like I'm not like, yes, Ebiketie has been doing a good job of getting pressure.
Well, he had his best overall game. He had his best game of the season on Sunday.
Right.
Like he did individually.
Right.
Okay? But so I think that if nothing else, that warrants like he needs to be out there more. Like he needs those snaps.
Oh, okay. He's talking about Lorenzo Carter. That's who he's
talking.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
Oh, well, so we brought up Damone Harris.
Yeah, we brought up Damone Harris, who played well in the preseason. Yeah. So
he was in there early with like early pressure. Like
right.
he did fine as far as I could see. I haven't gone back and watched the game again and like really honed in on it.
No, I haven't. And casually watching is like he said, yeah, but the Ravens were playing soft prevent defense. Again, I had went to sleep by the fourth quarter of that game, so I actually was shocked when I woke up and saw that it was 41-31 because I think it was like 17-10 when I went to bed, and I was like, "What did y'all do? Get drunk?" So
the last time I looked at it before the game was over, it was 41-17. I was like, Jesus.
Okay, so maybe so maybe it was like all garbage time touchdowns kind of deal.
It was like it was a combination of the Ravens were playing soft D. Okay, they were taking advantage of it. They were moving down the field quickly, but then they also did 2 onside kicks, got both of them. And
Okay.
like,
So
how
yeah, that's
often is
okay.
that going to happen? And
Yeah,
this is against the
that's some stuff
Ravens.
that
This is
isn't
the
that
Ravens. Yeah, well, this is the Ravens who they're the only team that has given up an onside kick all season.
right, and they give up 2 of them. So
Well, they had one
yeah,
earlier in the season too. So
right. And so anyway, with all that being said, like, is going down to Tampa going to be easy? No. Of course, I tweet out like the Bucks start off that game red hot, and I do awesome and tweet out like, Jimmy Lake better get his crap together because his Bucks team's looking legit. And then, of course, Baker throws an interception. And then a couple plays later throws another interception. And everybody started dogpiling on me like, oh, yeah, they're looking real good. I was like, look, guys, when I tweeted that out, okay,
they were looking good.
they were looking good. But
that's why you don't make any declarative statements until the end of the game, sir.
look, man, there's going to come a point in time.
You are not new. You are not new to Twitter.
I'm about to be done with Twitter is what it's been to happen. But no,
we're moving to blue sky, folks.
Blue sky. I'm moving to no social media whatsoever is what I'm fixing to move to. Let's see. Fred says, I know we need to draft Walker. I'm assuming you're talking about the Javon Walker out of Georgia. Fred, is he draft eligible? I don't know what grade he's in up there. I haven't even gotten into any of that. Alberto says, do y'all think we could hold up against the NFC top teams like Detroit, Packers? You're putting Commanders in the top team already? Wow. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the Commanders have had a great start to the season. I don't know if I'm ready to say top teams yet, but I think if we ended up going up against Detroit, I think we would lose that game right now. Like right now, those teams have like much more experience together to draw upon.
Yes.
Like a top team like Green Bay or like Detroit, or even like the Vikings. And you say, oh, Gerald, what are you talking about? The Vikings? They got Sam Darnold. Yes, but the rest of that team has been together for a while. That defense has been together, like coaching staff, and I know that they have some new pieces, but I
will say this, like, and I'm not saying it's a 1-to-1 comparison, but this feels a lot like the Lions when Dan Campbell first showed up.
Right.
Okay, when they first showed up, their first year, like I don't think they. I got to go looking again, but they didn't like do anything spectacular. Like they looked better. They played a little bit better. They at least looked like they gave a damn about being out there and they were competitive and stuff like that. But it wasn't until last year, like is either his 3rd or 4th season as the head coach, that they really really people were like, oh,
right,
that's the Lions. Oh,
it wasn't
Sean McVay. Okay, like Sean McVay goes to the Rams first year, boom, they're like badass and making it into the playoffs and all this other stuff. That didn't happen for Detroit, and he had to build that team, and that's the same thing here. Yes. Did we have some talent on this roster, especially on the offensive side? Yes, absolutely. Do we have talent on the defensive side? Yes, absolutely.
What I will say, what I feel like we're going to have by the end of this season, whether it's NFC South and we get a playoff game or whatever, I feel comfortable saying like we're going to have a winning season, and I think we're going to have a far better understanding and appreciation for the last 3 years offensive talent that we have drafted. Kyle Pitts these last couple games has looked like awesome. And I think they're finally getting on the same page of how they want to use him, and him understanding what Kurt wants from him, that kind of deal. They're using him in a lot better way. I haven't heard anybody the last 2 games gripe about Kyle Pitts' separation issues, because they're using him in different ways. Drake London looks like a legitimate wide receiver 1 in this league. And they're using him outside, inside. Like, he looks like the next Mike Evans, which is something we thought that he could be. And these last couple games, Bijan has looked like the reason why you drafted him where you did. So I think by the end of this year, whether it's a playoff win or just hosting a playoff game or whatever it is, or even, I really feel like we have a really good shot of winning the South. So that's why I keep talking about like a playoff game de facto just from winning the NFC South. And so I really do feel like we're going to feel pretty good going into next season.
Yeah.
Now, I hopefully, because you got to remember, in the Super Bowl era that we had, the Super Bowl year we had, our defense was hot garbage like the whole year. And you kind of like get that feeling. And it's no surprise that, it's Raheem Morris, right? Even in LA, his defenses weren't like amazing. They were good enough and opportunistic to steal an extra possession or two for Sean McVay's offense.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
basically what they're trying to do here: steal an
yeah,
extra possession or two.
Yeah.
For the offense.
Well, and you had a superstar.
Well, you had a first ballot you had a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, and he was the guy that like when it came down to, basically like guys like T.J. Watt, the Bosas when things are going good there, like when those kind of guys, when you have one of those on your defense, when it comes down to crunch time and you need it, and you have to have a stop, you have to have a play, you need a sack or whatever, they go out there and do that.
Right.
Okay. That's what he had in LA with Aaron Donald. And when they won their Super Bowl, what was the very last play that defense ran? Or like the very last play of that defense was a sack to basically secure that win by Aaron Donald.
That's it.
Okay.
And that's right. So don't expect, like, that's what I keep trying to, like, I keep thinking about, like, I've been thinking about since Sunday. Like, I don't expect some kind of defensive revolution, because that's not what these guys are. That's not what they have run. That's not what they have had. It is the quintessential bend but don't break. Keep the big plays from happening. Limit those as much as you can, and try to steal a possession or two. Like, if I was so inclined, I would probably go back and look at like how many turnovers the Rams had under Raheem Morris, and so I think that's what this defense is aiming to do, which is why you go out and pair a Justin Simmons with a Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates, who who had like 6 interceptions last year, and Justin Simmons, who's had the most interceptions since he came in the league. Like, what you're trying to do is get more possessions to be able to put points on the board.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I Run For You has he said, what's the possibility of being able to keep Tyler and Robinson? It just all depends on, and I put it to you like this: it all depends on what Tyler wants. It all depends on what Algier is asking for. If Algier looks at the situation and says, "Hey, man, I really like being here, and I really like running with this dude. I don't necessarily want to be head cheese," then you have a real good opportunity. Because I tell you who they're going to keep. As long as he's healthy and effective, they're going to keep Bijan.
Yeah.
And this past game showed you that. Over 100 yards rushing with, 40 yards on the, through the air. Like and they're starting to vary up his runs. They're starting to give Bijan, they're starting to trust him with those inside zone runs and allowing him to run under center, and you're benefiting from it. So it really is going to come down to, does Algier want to be a full-time starter, and does he want starter money?
Yeah, if he wants to be if he continues to play like he's been playing, if he wants to be a starter, some team is going to pay him whatever is considered to be starter money for a running back.
Correct.
And now depending on how much that is, maybe we can fit him in, maybe.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I really like Algier. I really, 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 really do.
Oh yeah.
And to be completely honest, if we had not drafted Bijan, if we had gone some other direction, whether it was another wide receiver, whether it was a defensive guy, doesn't really matter, or offensive lineman or whatever the case would be. If we'd gone some other direction and we did not have Bijan Robinson, okay, and all we had, I say all, but what we had as our workhorse or bell cow or whatever was Tyler Algier, I'd be perfectly fine with that in 99% of cases. There are some things that I think that you're just not going to get out of Algier. But I think Algier, if he was the workhorse, if he was the guy that was getting 20, anywhere from 18 to 23 rushes every single game, guy would be a mauler.
Oh, I mean, he's a guy.
How long he'd last in the league, who knows? But yeah,
I mean, even this past game, you gave 21 rushes to Bijan and only 5 rushes to Tyler. Well, those 5 rushes for Tyler was averaging 7.2 yards a carry.
Yeah.
So it's all going to come down to Tyler Algier and what he wants at the end of the day. Because who they're going to feature is going to be Bijan Robinson. And so is Tyler cool with being Robin to his Batman? If he is, I feel like he could eke out a very long career.
He wants to be Nightwing to his Batman.
Yeah, that's a reference that's over my head. So I gave you Batman and Robin as much as I could pull off on that one. But if he wants to be Batman, he's gonna have to go be Batman somewhere else. And the Cowboys would welcome him in. Because right now, he alone has more rushing yards than the Cowboys do as a team. So, and he's splitting carries. So yes, the Cowboys would welcome him in all day long. Fred's there's a report just came out with Mike Evans. Yeah, he's gonna be out for a while. I knew that. When he was grabbing that hamstring, or when he was grabbing the back of that leg, he was already came in with a gimpy hamstring. And I knew he was gonna be done for a little while. Me and you going for the same thing. What would you honestly give up for Max Crosby?
I said this last show. Max Crosby, I would, if they would take this deal, which I mean, who knows? But if they would take the deal, I would give up 2025 first, 2026 first, easy.
I would definitely. I don't know if I'd give up 2 firsts just because I really like my draft capital.
And I get it, but again,
I told this, but I would definitely give up 2025 first, 100%, because you feel like you by the draft that you had this past season, doing what you did, you feel like you're not going to be high in the draft order for a while, right?
Huh?
So, and you're going to have Braylon Trice come back. So adding him to the mix, that would free up whether you bring back Judon or not. Yep. But if you brought Max Crosby in, it's like you're saying, okay, Max Crosby, and what did we say he was last week? 27 years old?
Yep.
Okay, so he's in what I would call the second half of the prime of his career. You got your early prime and your late prime. So he's in that late prime where he is going to get another contract. So you bring him in and you pair him with Braylon Trice and, Ebiketie as a coming off the bench kind of guy. And you probably let Judon, test his market somewhere else.
Yep. But like I said, I personally would have no problems giving up to the 2 first.
Right.
And the reasoning I gave was I'm not saying there's no possibility. There's no possibility that we could ever find somebody in the first round of the next two drafts that could give us the same kind of production. It is highly unlikely.
Oh yeah,
that whoever we draft as a first round draft pick, whether if we're specifically talking defensive ends or edge rushers, there's almost nobody that I can think of that we would be able to pick up that would give us anything close to the kind of production, most likely, that we're going to get from a Max Crosby at this stage of his career.
And I'll say this, like Jay Black is not wrong. It's fun to talk about getting Crosby. Realistically, it won't happen at this point. Yeah, I mean, they pretty much, like the Raiders have pretty much come out and said they're not trading Max for Crosby. Like, they traded Devontae Adams basically because like he was being a diva, and he wanted out. Now Max says he doesn't want to be there for a rebuild, but that's a little different. You can, now that you got a guy like Tom Brady as your like partial owner, and who apparently is going to be heavily involved even as a minority owner, like that's a little easier sell. Like, okay, we're not going to rebuild. Like we're going to do X, Y, and Z. I honestly believe, and I'm not even trying to be an asshole here, excuse my language, but I honestly believe that Antonio Pierce is gone at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And Mark Davis is going to look at it and go, hey, look, guys, I gave y'all what y'all wanted. It didn't work out. This guy was not a very good coach. Now let's go get a real coach. And, they may go get Belichick or somebody like that and what have you, and try to start like redoing that culture out there. But I don't think that they're going to get rid of Max Crosby. I think and so like Dre Murphy says, give me Crosby or Trey Henderson. I don't think Henderson. I don't think Cincinnati isn't going to be a seller. Like the best bet right now, if we were to make a move, I think we said it last week. Like I could see them getting Zadarius Smith, from Cleveland,
like him or Ojulari.
Yeah, one of those guys. Guy, because right now, like Cleveland can't get rid of Myles Garrett because they need something for the fans to come watch. Like they need something for the fans to root for. Like I don't see them getting rid of Myles Garrett, and so a guy like Zadarius Smith or Ojulari, those guys, probably would be the ones to be moved, if anybody is moved.
I see Javon Walker's name brought up. I'll say the other guy that I'd like is Michael Williams from that Georgia defense. He's 6'5", 265 pounds.
I don't know. I still need somebody to do a case study on why the guys like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean and all those guys off that all-world defense like still haven't really made much of an impact in the NFL. But that worries me a little bit about those Georgia boys transitioning to the league, because even Travon Walker down in Jacksonville hasn't made much of a impact.
Well, I think he's doing better this year. I think he's got like 6.5 sacks, something like that this year.
Travon Walker? No,
I think so.
Hold on. Trayvon, not Walker.
I thought I heard that. I could be wrong.
No. Look like he does have 6 sacks. Look like he got 3 against Indiana. And I wonder if that was against Joe Flacco. They are not taking, I mean, they would probably take, but they got Nick Chubb. They don't need a running back.
Yeah, no.
And they're not.
You want to talk about the Browns not giving up Myles Garrett because they need something for the fans. Like you trade Bijan Robinson. Like the fan base that we have right now loves Bijan.
Oh yeah.
So you ship him out of here, you're gonna have
at best, like you might ship Tyler out of here, and you might ship Kyle Pitts out of here as far as the offense is concerned.
Yep.
But
Like Jace McClellan, I'll say this: like when he got those, great, it was garbage time. It is what it is. Whatever. I liked what I saw out of him.
hey, we got to see a Michael Penix pass.
Yeah, and it
That's,
looked good. Like that
right?
was it was a nice 14-yard little hit.
Yeah,
Well, it wasn't
and
all 14 yards on his own, but the hitch route,
yeah,
he threw it. It was right on target. It was right on time. It had zip on it. And
right.
now the thing that I will say is, the thing that I noticed on that particular pass, again, we're talking about garbage time. I'm pretty sure they didn't have their starters in. We didn't have our starters in. Casey Washington caught the pass, which I thought was awesome. I think
Yeah, I thought that was great.
I think he needs to get into some more games. I'd like to see him get into some more games. But the thing I noticed was when he threw that pass and that pass got to him, he still had like at least 3 or 4 yards, it felt like, between him and the defender to be able to make a move. And I think some of that comes from like he dropped back, saw his guy, threw it, and the zip on his pass is that much more so than somebody like a Cousins, that it just gets on him a lot quicker, gives
Well,
his
it's a
guy
young,
more of a
it's
chance.
younger arm, but that
Oh, yeah,
that gives you hope for the future. And like
yeah,
Michael says, if you take Garrett from Cleveland, you have to give him Michael Penix. And like I said earlier, they're not trading Penix. Like we make the joke, I've made it more than once, but you don't take Penix at 8 and then trade him.
no,
Like it's just not, especially not in the first year. Like if we're talking about 3 years in, Cousins is still looking great, still looking awesome, and you feel like you're a player away, then you might do something like a trade of Penix. But even then,
no.
that's why,
He's who you believe your future is.
right? Exactly, and you're not going to do that. Jay Murphy's getting mad at me for talking about shipping off Kyle freaking Pitts, the unicorn. I'm just saying, like, if there's anybody who's going to be on a move, uh, then it's going to be somebody like that.
Chris said, "I really hope Penix gets to sit for 2 years and get his footwork right, and he will be an All-Pro." That hurt to say.
Somebody needs to send somebody to Chris's house, check on him, make sure he's all right, because
Yeah,
I
I
know
know.
that hurt him to say.
Well, hey, I mean, as much as that hurt, it's got to be feeling good about your Ducks being.
Yeah,
they got to be number one, right? I haven't checked the
uh,
AP poll, but I'm assuming they.
yeah, they got to be number one, right? They like so. All right, folks. Well, we did it. We were able to talk about this team, even though it was a loss. Yeah, but going on the road, going down to Tampa, you've got to you've had the opportunity to kick Tampa while they're down, and you've got to take it. You got to sweep Tampa and put some distance between you and them in this NFC South, because right now it's a 2-horse race with the Saints going on the skid that they have gone on, which doesn't look to be ending anytime soon. Because now you're talking about Rattler instead of Carr. Plus some of their other guys have been hurt. Now, granted, they just extended Alvin Kamara, but that's just trying to. They're already behind the 8 ball in the cap space, so that's just trying to move money down the road there. But you've got to start putting some distance between yourself. This game sucked, but you're getting it out of the way early, hopefully.
Yeah.
Now you need to learn from it and move on. What's up, Taz,
man?
Appreciate you stopping in. All right, folks. I think that's going to do it for us tonight. As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128. That's GRIMM1128. Jonathan.
At Jonathan M. Holder. Come by, say hi.
There you go. We'll be back live next Tuesday. Might be from a different location for me. I might end up having to be out of town for work. So next Tuesday is tentative, I guess you could say. We'll see how everything plays out.
Gotcha.
If we don't make it next Tuesday, we probably won't have a show next week because next week's my little girl's birthday and it's Halloween. So, like, the chances of me being able to sit down even like on a Thursday and do a show is going to be pretty slim. But hopefully we won't have any interruptions, and we'll be able to do the show next week without much of a problem. So appreciate y'all, and as always, rise up.
Rise up.
Peace.